Okay, let's answer some questions. Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. Today I'm going to finally do the Q&A that I promised well over a month ago when my channel turned 7. I am sorry it's taken me so long to get around to this because I had so many questions and really good questions, but filming has been difficult in this last half of the year. If you've been watching my vlogs and looking at the community tab and following me on Instagram and stuff, you know what's going on. And yeah, I've just been finding it hard to have the energy to be on camera, because even though, and I've said this before, even though I'm very much myself on camera, I obviously want to be coherent, and I'm having a lot of brain fog at the moment, and I do want to be cheerful. I don't want to be bringing your day down with my videos. I want to be improving your day hopefully with my videos. So it's taken a little while, but we're here. I've got my Christmas jumper on, got the Christmas tree behind me. Isn't she a beauty? Yes, I have a wicked for good tree decoration this year. I've got my Christmas earrings in. I've got a fresh cup of Turkish apple tea, which is steaming, in my Tesco Christmas mug. I will link both of those things underneath in case you're interested. And we're going to chat. This is going to be a very chatty one. I've got no idea how long it will be, but I've got questions. I've got Instagram questions I've got written down on a very professional looking piece of paper. And then the questions that you guys gave me on YouTube, I've got on my screen. So we're going to chat this through. I've also, just whilst I've picked up my mug, which is steaming, I will not be drinking that just yet. This, look how cute this, what's the word for this? Brain fog, sorry. Coaster is that Charlotte from Books, Bargains and Being Vegan got me for my birthday. I have used it non-stop since. It is currently my mug of choice. My coaster of choice. Let's put that down for a minute. So yes, couple of disclaimers and the usual apologies. First of all, is this straight? Kind of. The lighting's terrible. It is 10:30 in the morning. I've left this as long as possible to be able to film, and I've got like other stuff to do today. This is as light as it's going to get. I've got basically all the lights on, or as many lights on as I can manage, so apologies for the lighting. And secondly, as you know, if you've been here for more than 5 minutes, I have cats. And it's 10:30 in the morning, so they should sleep through the filming of this. However, every time Savannah, one of our cats, hears me filming, she gets up and she comes to investigate, and then she inevitably does zoomies or something. So I apologise in advance if we have any feline interruptions. Okay, we're 2 minutes in, I haven't answered a single question, so let's get into this. So like I said, this was to celebrate the fact that my channel has turned 7 years old, which is just incredible. I did a video, I did the Booktube birthday tag, which I'll link underneath, for like general birthday bookish stuff, Booktube bookish stuff, birthday stuff. That stuff is all in that video, so I will link that underneath. And when I ask the questions, boy did you guys deliver. We've got quite a few to get through, so thank you to everyone who put in a question. Nope, that is still too hot to drink. Let's put that down. Okay, let's start. I'm going to start with Instagram and then we'll go to YouTube. So I have forgotten to write down who asked me these questions from Instagram, so I apologise, but thank you to those of you that did. Number 1, if your channel wasn't about books, what would it be about? I really like this question. It's really interesting, and it did make me think quite a bit. I'm not sure I would have a channel if it wasn't bookish, and I know I post quite a lot of like general life stuff, particularly in the vlogs, but I'm not sure I'd specifically fit into other niches on YouTube. I wouldn't have a teaching channel, and we'll talk about teaching and Booktube in a bit because I've had a really good question about that as well. I wouldn't have a teaching Booktube channel, a teaching YouTube channel. I'm sorry. This is going to be what it is today. Like I said, the brain fog is real. Yeah, so I wouldn't have a teaching channel. I don't have any other hobbies. Like reading is the one thing that I do. Maybe lifestyle, but like I don't think I'd fit into lifestyle because I don't wear makeup. I don't like, I do dress, but like I'm not into fashion. I wear the same things on rotation, as you'll know if you've watched any of my vlogs. So yeah, I'm not sure where else I would fit in. So I don't think I'd have a channel if it wasn't Booktube. Interesting question though, it did make me think. Thank you for that. So number 2, I'm curious as to why you haven't pursued your own writing. Yeah, that's a good question. For anyone that doesn't know, I have a master's degree in creative writing. I have an undergrad degree, a BA in English literature and creative writing, and I have a master's degree in writing for young people, which I absolutely loved. I got my master's degree when I was 21. I'm now 38, so it's been a long time. And when I initially did my master's degree, at the end of that process, I went out on submission because I'd written 2 novels during that time. I had written a middle grade adventure, like fantasy adventure story, which is what I got onto the course with. And then through the course, we got to try out loads and loads of different writing styles and genres and age groups and all that sort of stuff. And when I came out of the course 12 months later, I had written a contemporary young adult book. And I took that young adult book out on submission. I got quite far through the process. I very nearly got agented, but not quite. And I haven't pursued it since. And it's complicated because I get this question quite a bit, especially at work. And yeah, it's kind of a complicated one. I think a big part of it was, like I said, I got my master's degree when I was 21. And then I had a few years of really, really bad mental health. And it wasn't because of getting my master's degree in the writing, but I think in my brain it's still slightly tangled up with that really dark time in my life. And writing is, you have to be, I think, to be a good writer, you have to be really vulnerable. And I just haven't felt ready to be that vulnerable again. I also then kind of came out of that period of bad mental health and I met my husband. And obviously was kind of, taken up with that. The last decade or so has been super busy. We've had a lot happen. Like I said, we've got married. We've got Charlie, my stepson. We lived through the pandemic. I changed my job, changed careers completely in 2020, became a teacher, and that is all consuming. So it's partly because I haven't had the mental space for it. I'm also scared. It's quite a scary thing. Like I said, you have to be quite vulnerable in order to be a good writer and also to put yourself out there. I've got a hiccup now. Put yourself out there with agents and all that sort of stuff. So yeah, that's why I haven't pursued it thus far. I think it is something that eventually I will circle back to. I have ideas all the time. I've always got ideas in my head. I've always got characters in my head. I've always got, opening lines and stuff like that. And obviously I love to read, and I do feel like eventually I'll be ready, but just not yet. So yeah, great question. Thank you. Question number 3, what got you into reading? So I have always been a reader. I was a weird kid, okay? I was very introverted. As it turns out, neurodiverse. Didn't know that at the time. Grew up in the 90s. We were told only boys could be neurodiverse. I mean, neurodiverse wasn't even a term then. So I had no idea that I might be different. But yeah, I was weird. I didn't have many friends. I just preferred spending time by myself. And so I read. And I remember my nan is a big reader. My grandma is a big reader. My mum can be. She kind of comes and goes. She'll read like 12 books on holiday and then not read all year. That kind of reader, which is fine and totally valid. So books were always a thing in our house. I always remember my dad reading to us every night, and my mum as well. And so books were just always around. And I think I learnt to read quite early. And they were just always my thing. It's just reading is something that's always been there. I think when you ask other people this question, there was maybe a specific book that got them into reading, or they came to reading sort of later on in life. For me, it's just always been part of the tapestry of who I am. And I've always had a book in my hands. Quite a lot of my childhood photographs, I'm holding a book or I'm reading a book or whatever. It's just always been a big thing. The first book I can remember reading myself all the way through is The Borrowers by Mary Norton, and this is a series of books, and I remember having a bind up with the whole series and just reading it literally again and again and again until the pages fell out. I would get to the end of the bind up and just go straight back to the first page and read it again. I was absolutely captivated by this story and these characters, and yeah, it's just, I've always been a reader, but this is the first book I remember reading kind of independently, and it's always a book that will have a very special place in my heart. Going on to the next question, links in nicely. Top 3 books of all time. Whoever asked me this question, you are mean. I say that with love. I mean, at least you gave me a top 3 rather than asking me my favourite book of all time, because that's almost impossible to answer. This was hard enough to narrow it down to 3, and I was looking at my shelves and massively overthinking it. And to be honest, I just picked 3 in the end that kind of, this sounds like super cheesy and probably kind of an exaggeration, but I picked 3 books that basically changed my life in some way and that I feel like I could always go back to. So the first of these, now if you've been on my channel for a while, you can probably guess at least 2 of these, I would say. These are all books I've talked about lots. These are all books that I've been very enthusiastic about a lot of the time. And they're books I've recommended, but I'd be interested to know if you can guess. So if you want to pause the video and put your guesses maybe in the comments. Is this cool enough to drink? Not really, it's still steaming. And because it's fruit tea, there's no milk in it, so it takes a while to cool down. I am obsessed with this mug. This is the first time using it today as well, actually, so that's exciting. No, that is still too hot to drink. Will it be cool enough to drink by the end of the video? I guess we'll find out. So yeah, if you want to put your guesses in the comments, and I will tell you what I think my top 3 books of all time are. I mean, this could be different on a different day, but I'm fairly sure this would be my top 3. So first of all is The Handmaid's Tale by Margaret Atwood. I've got a beautiful sprayed edge edition. I have many, many copies of this book. I have copies of this book. Every time I see a copy of this book that I don't own, I buy it. This is the only book I allow myself to do that with. And it is because it just means so much to me. This also came with its own bookmark. And look at these end pages. Beautiful. Is there anything on this? I haven't opened this for a while. Oh yeah, and it's got the kind of, can't really see it. There you go. You can see the figure of the woman on the front, which I think is a really cool touch. Is this an edition that's signed? I have got a couple of signed editions because my husband is the absolute best. No, and this is the Vintage Books edition for anyone that's interested. This book genuinely changed the way I look at the world. I first read this when I was 16 as part of my A-levels. I did A-levels in English literature, English language, media studies and dance. Don't know why you wanted to know that, now I've told you. But this was one of the first set texts that we had on my A-level course, and I had never read anything like it. I remember we only read an extract. I think we read the first chapter, and I was completely hooked. I was completely obsessed. It's one of those times I feel like if you're a reader, you know that feeling when you read something and you're like, this is going to be really important to me. And I just knew it from that first extract that I read. This is a book that I have read, I don't want to guess how many times I've read this book, maybe hundreds of times by now. And every time I read it, I find something new. There's something else, there's a different angle to it. There is another layer that Atwood has put in. I know there are some elements to this that some people feel are problematic. But when people criticise this book, so for example, I haven't told you what it's about yet, but I'll do that in a minute. There are no black characters or characters of colour in this book, but that is the point that Atwood is trying to make, because we are in this dystopian society and we're following Offred. She's actually unnamed, the main character, but she's known as Offred, because in this dystopian society, a right-wing Christian group have taken over, sorry, my computer's now trying to do a reboot, no, have taken over America, or what was once the United States of America, or parts of it, and they have brought in this regime. And under this regime, women have lost all rights. They are not considered to be people, and they are grouped according to their ability to reproduce, because birth rates have dropped. And so this regime, which is known as Gilead, has come in and kind of recategorized all women. And as a woman, you can either be a wife, who are wives to the kind of political elite, they wear blue. You can be a Martha, who are the women who cook and clean and do all of the work that is required to make society run. You can be an aunt, who wear brown, and they are kind of in charge of controlling the handmaids, who wear red. And the handmaids are women who are biologically able to have babies, and they are forced to reproduce with the men, the kind of upper class elite men, who are known as commanders. And they are stripped, all women are stripped of their names and identities. They are given kind of monikers that link to the man that they are linked to. So our main character is known as Offred because her commander is called Fred, so she is literally of Fred, and we follow her through the society. And to me, the genius of Atwood is that she didn't invent anything that is in this book. Nothing in this book was made up by her. It was pulled from real life things that were either happening at the time when she wrote it in the 80s or had happened in history. And a lot of it is scary because things are starting to happen in the world that happen in this book. And yeah, I just think it is phenomenal writing. And it opened my eyes to a lot when I was 16. I was very lucky. I grew up in a very privileged bubble. And this book was the start of me kind of seeing a different perspective on the world. So yeah, that is definitely one of my favourite books of all time. The other two are not as heavy. The second one I picked is The Hobbit by J.R.R. Tolkien, which I only read last year and tabbed, but I became completely obsessed. It became a massive part of my personality last year. And I read it twice last year. I'm very excited to reread it again, probably at the start of next year. And I just loved this story. I love the whole Lord of the Rings series. The Hobbit is my favourite. And I just don't think you can go wrong with Tolkien's writing. In this one, we're following Bilbo, who is a hobbit, and he goes, I think it's, is there a subtitle? Is it There and Back Again? He goes on this The Hobbit or There and Back Again, and Bilbo is very reluctant, and we love a reluctant hero. He just wants to stay at home, read his books, smoke his pipe, eat cheese, you know, not be bothered. But he gets dragged reluctantly into this adventure, and I just adore it. So that's my second choice. And then the third one is a book that for me opened up a whole genre and kind of led to me reading stuff like The Hobbit. It just opened up a whole genre, and I remember the reading experience. There's certain books I think that you remember the reading experience of, and I remember sitting and reading this book even though it was a few years ago, and like I said, it opened a whole genre for me, and that is Legends and Lattes by Travis Baldree. We are following Viv, who is retiring as an orc. She's an orc, but she's retiring. I can never remember what the word is. Barbarian orc. She's retiring basically from fighting for a living, and she decides that she wants to set up a coffee shop. So she moves to this tiny town that's never heard of coffee, and she literally builds the coffee shop from the ground up. And it's just following her, and she is at a point in her life where she's kind of having an early midlife crisis. I love characters who are kind of experiencing that, possibly because of my age. And she's trying to figure herself out and what she wants and what the point of life is. And she gathers this found family around her. There's beautiful descriptions of food, one of my favourite things to read about. And yeah, this opened this whole genre of cozy fiction, both kind of cozy romance and cozy fantasy, or just cozy in general. It just really opened it up for me, and I have not looked back since. So yeah, these are my kind of, I would say, these are my top 3 books currently of all time. But ask me on a different day, you might get a different answer. Okay, question number 5. Biggest disappointment you read recently, Catabasis. I don't think I'm saying that right. And if I remember, editing Victoria, put a picture in of the cover here, because I don't own that book anymore. It's already left my house. I pre-ordered it. I pre-ordered a gorgeous special edition, signed with sprayed edges, the whole shebang. And I got 100 pages in and realised I did not care. And that was a real disappointment. Sorry, the next question is about why I hate books, and the 2 questions kind of go together. Yeah, Catabasis, I'm not sure how we're saying it. I've seen the author say it many different ways. Yeah, I was just not interested, and I've really enjoyed Ara Kwong or Rebecca Kwong or whichever name she's writing under. I've really, really loved some of her books. Yellowface I loved, and Babel. And I was really excited for more dark academia from her, but I just did not care, and if I don't care about a book, I'm not going to finish it. And actually, having seen reviews from people who I really trust and whose reading taste kind of mirrors my own, I did the right thing by DNFing. So yeah, that is probably the biggest disappointment of the year, just because I was so excited for it, and I spent a lot of money on the signed special edition. But it's gone to a good home, and hopefully they will have better luck with it than me. But yeah, that's definitely my biggest disappointment of the year. I used to do, once upon a time, worst book of the year videos. Just put my mug down because it's nice to hold it in my hands, but also my hands at the moment are a little bit unreliable because of health stuff. I'm dropping things quite a lot. I do not want to drop this mug on our beautiful table. My husband will not be happy, and neither will I. I've now forgotten what I was saying. What we're talking about? Catabasis. It's gone. I was really excited about it. It's gone to a new home. We'll come back to that in a minute. Next question. What makes you hate a book? It is rare. Oh, that's what I was talking about. We'll come back to the question in a minute. I used to do, at the end of each year, a most disappointing books of the year video. I always do a best books, which I will be doing. You'll see it in January. Because also I don't understand how people do end of year content in December, because I haven't finished the reading year yet. So all of my end of year stuff will be in January because this year isn't finished until January. Anyway, everyone makes their own choices, which is fine. But yeah, I used to make most disappointing videos. They're probably still on my channel somewhere. I don't ever private videos. I think the only videos I removed from my channel were any that were linked directly with Rowling. I've got rid of those. But other than that, I don't private videos. So they will still be there. And I used to do those videos and they get a lot of views. And I understand why they get a lot of views. And I do watch them. If creators that I follow post them, I will watch them. But I just didn't want that level of negativity on my channel. I try to keep things positive around here. I want to kind of uplift books and authors and, you know, put positivity into the world. And I think it's perfectly fine to be honest. I would always be honest. I would never say I liked a book if I didn't. And if I don't like a book, I would do my best to explain why. But having a whole video of just negativity, personally, just didn't sit right with me. So I stopped doing them a few years ago. And I'm not side-eyeing anyone that does it. Like I said, I will watch them. I just don't have them on my channel. But yeah, Catabasis, I would say, is my biggest disappointment of the year. That was sad times. Okay, number 6. What makes you hate a book? It's rare I hate a book. I will DNF a book if I'm not feeling connected to the characters, like I said with Catabasis. That is usually the reason that I DNF a book, is I'm just not feeling connected. I just don't care what's going on. Life is too short for books that we're not enjoying. And I fully believe in DNFing. Jack did a really good video on that recently where she talked about the books that she's DNF'd this year and why she DNF'd them. I'll link that underneath because I agreed with everything she said. Even though some of the books that she's DNF'd in that video I have loved and have been some of my favourite reads this year. And that's the joy of reading, isn't it? Everyone's got a different opinion. And it's so, individual. So I very much believe in DNFing. For me to hate a book is slightly different. I think, again, like I said, it's quite rare. I didn't hate Catabasis. I didn't enjoy it. It was disappointing. I think the last book that I actively hated was The House Across the Lake by Riley Sager, because I just got to the end and there's a reveal and it was just so ridiculous. I felt like I'd been fooled. I felt stupid as a reader, and that's not a feeling I enjoy. And I wanted to throw that book across the room, but that doesn't happen to you very much. So yeah, I think I'm at a point where, I'm nearing 40. I have therefore been reading for 30 plus years. I read around about 150 books a year. And so I've got a good handle on the types of books that I am likely to enjoy. I'm very picky about what I pick up because I want to enjoy reading. And so it's quite rare for me to come across a book that I really hate. But yeah, if it makes me feel stupid as a reader, I'm going to hate it. Obviously, if it's got anything in it that is deeply offensive or hateful to other people, I'm also going to have a problem. But yeah, it doesn't happen very often because I am quite good these days at choosing books and filtering stuff out that's just not for me. I need a sip of tea. Mostly because I've been talking for 25 minutes. Okay, the last Instagram question, actually I think this came on an email. It's potentially a controversial one. It is, what is your biggest Booktube annoyance, both as a creator and as a viewer? Okay, So, as a creator, that's easy. It's editing. I hate editing. I've said this before. And every time I say it, I have comments from like fellow creators who love editing and it's like their favourite part of the process. I hate it. I find it irritating and fiddly. And I do a very basic edit. As you guys will know if you watch my videos, I edit the start and the end. If I talk about a book that I haven't physically got, I will try and remember to put a picture up of the cover. Don't always manage that. That's about it. I don't edit out the ums, the ahs, the kind of brain fogs. I will edit if I'm going to sneeze because I feel like nobody needs to see that. But I do a very basic job of editing. Hilariously, there is a gossip forum called Tattle, and somebody made me aware earlier in the year that my name had come up on the Booktube thread, which is fine. Obviously, when you put yourself on the internet, you expect people to have an opinion, which they're entitled to, but I had been brought up because apparently whoever it was didn't like my editing style, and it did make me laugh a little bit because I don't really edit. I wouldn't say that I massively edit, but maybe that's the problem. Maybe for them I don't edit enough. Anyway, as a creator, editing is the most annoying part of Booktube. That's frustrating. As a viewer, this is where we could get a little bit controversial. So I am not going to single out any creators, and I'm not talking specifically about anyone in particular. It's just a general thing that irritates me when I'm watching content. There are two things. First of all is mid-roll adverts. So I don't put mid-rolls in unless my video is over an hour long, because I feel like one advert per hour that you're watching is kind of fair enough. Obviously, my channel is monetized, so I get, for those of us that have monetization, we want to make as much money as possible. We get absolute pittance from YouTube for our content, which is frustrating because it's hours and hours of work and effort and planning, all that sort of stuff. And we obviously want to make as much as we can. This is a charity channel. We're going to talk about charity a bit more in a minute. So all of my AdSense goes into the charity pot. I want to raise as much money as possible for our chosen charities each year. So I do have ads at the start and the end of every single video, but as a viewer, when creators put in mid-roll ads, it irritates the heck out of me. If it's like one ad, like I said, like one ad per hour that you're watching, I feel like is fair enough, but it's when there are constant ads, it really irritates me. And as a creator, I know that we have full control over where the ads go. You can just click the button for mid-rolls and let YouTube do it, but you can also not let YouTube do it and fully control where they go. And it is a bit of a fiddly process. I'm not saying that I'm perfect at it, because I'm not, but I always try and put them in where it's like least annoying, because there are some creators who are putting in ads what feels like every 2 minutes. And I also find it irritating if an ad appears in the middle of a sentence that, you know, somebody's talking about a book, I'm really enjoying their book review or whatever, and then there's suddenly an ad like in the middle of a sentence. It's just really jarring and takes me out of the video. So that's one thing that I really don't like. And the other thing is spoilers. There is nothing that will make me unsubscribe faster than a creator that gives spoilers. And again, I don't claim to be perfect at this, and probably if you go through my back catalogue, there'll be videos where I've given spoilers, but I feel like in the year 2025, we all know what a spoiler is, and I find it annoying when people give them. And I think people are generally good at avoiding obvious spoilers. So like if there's a murder mystery, talking about who the murderer is. But I also personally think that talking about how many plot twists there are and where they are in the book is a spoiler. If you tell me, oh, I didn't guess the first plot twist, but the second plot twist that comes at the 80% point or at the end, I never saw coming, that's a spoiler, because now I know there are other plot twists coming and where they are. So I find that really frustrating as a viewer. So yeah, those are probably my annoyances. I don't talk about things that annoy me very often, but those are two of them. Constant mid-roll ads. I know we want to make money, but it just ruins the viewing experience. And spoilers. Don't do the spoilers. Please don't. Or if you're going to give a spoiler, give a warning so that I can click forward in the video or whatever. There's just no need for it. Okay, we're 30 minutes in and we're only just getting to the YouTube questions. So this is going to be quite a long video. I'm glad I got tea. Okay, so I have got in front of me the, let's move this across a little bit, the post that I put on my community tab asking for questions. So thank you to everybody. Don't think these are in any particular order. I'm just going to read them in the order they're on the screen. So Laura asked, if you could magically transport yourself to a fictional world, which would you choose? For me, it's a toss-up between Philippa Gregory's Tudor Court or Dream Harbour, where I could work in the Pumpkin Spice Cafe. Lots of love. That is such a great question. And I have been thinking about it, and I just couldn't come up with any better answer. Let me get the book in front of me. I want to be a hobbit. That's all I want from life. I just want to be a hobbit. I want to live in the Shire and eat like however many meals a day it is, like 8 meals a day, and hang out with Sam and Frodo, and just live a quiet, peaceful life. So I would definitely go to the Hobbit, but specifically the Shire. I don't want to get involved with like the whole, you know, the war and getting rid of the bad guys, all that kind of stuff. No, thank you very much. I'll just be hanging out, drinking tea in the Shire whilst the rest of you get on with that. But yeah, I would definitely want to go to the Shire if I could be transported to a fictional world. That's a brilliant question. Okay, Deb's asked, I'm hoping I'm saying everybody's names right as well. I'm just obviously reading like usernames, and we all know that dyslexic, so I apologise in advance for getting this wrong. So Deb said, what is your absolute favourite book and who is your favourite author? So obviously I've already waxed lyrical about my 3 favourite books. I would say Margaret Atwood is my favourite author. I have read everything she's written. That's not quite true. I've read all of her fiction works. I've read most of, or a lot of, her non-fiction works. I've got her autobiography to read. That is probably going to be one of my first reads of 2026. And I've read a fair chunk of her poetry. I'm not a massive poetry reader, but I would say I've read probably 90% of everything she's ever written. To me, she is just an incredible writer. She's an incredible person. She is someone who I really look up to. And so yeah, I would say she's definitely my favourite author. Rachel said, has there been a book that's had a profound and lasting effect on you? The 3 books I've already talked about, for sure, plus The Borrowers, which was one of the first books I ever read. Yeah, I'd say them. And just, yeah, I think we probably already covered that question. I can't think of any others that are springing to mind immediately. Deb's said, asked another question, which is lovely. A few of you did multiple questions. Can you recommend a good cozy read with no smut? And can you recommend a good non-fiction book? So a good cozy read with no smut was hilariously difficult for me looking at my shelves. And I absolutely understand people who don't want to read smutty scenes in their books. A lot of what I've read in the last sort of 2 years has been quite smutty. I think starting with the Brown Sisters trilogy and kind of going from there. And then this past year, I've got really into cowboy romances. So this was a little bit trickier looking at my shelves. However, I would recommend the Mandy Morton No. 2 Feline Detective Agency series. These are cozy. Oh, sorry, I'm going to have another drink. My throat is sore today. Excuse me. These are cozy. They do have murder and mystery and a bit of mayhem in them, but there's no smut. And in this world, everybody is a cat. And we're following Tilly and Hetty, who are 2 cats, 2 female cats who live together, and they run the No. 2 Feline Detective Agency. And each story has got its own mystery in it. I love these books. I think they're really fun. Charlotte introduced me to them because she sent me one, like book number, I think like book 11, has got a Handmaid's Tale pun in the title. She bought it purely for that. I read it not expecting anything. And thoroughly enjoyed it, and then went back to the beginning, and I'm now very slowly working my way through the series. So yeah, for cozy but no smut, I would recommend the No. 2 Feline Detective Agency. And then you said a good non-fiction book. So non-fiction is a huge genre. I feel like it's not really a genre, it's a writing style. Kind of like novel is a writing style versus short story. So it depends massively on the things that you are interested in. I think the key with non-fiction is looking for topics that you're interested in, I want to explore more, and engaging writing. Some non-fiction can be dry. I think we're moving away from that a lot, because I think a lot more people are looking to read engaging non-fiction, so a lot more of it's being written. So you need a good writer. So yeah, it's a bit tricky to recommend non-fiction without knowing what type of non-fiction. But I was looking at my shelves, and one of my favourites is The Five by Hallie Rubenhold. This came out a few years ago. When did this come out? I feel like this was like 2020, 2019. I feel like I read it in 2020, and I really enjoy Hallie Rubenhold's writing style. I've read a couple of non-fictions from her now, and as it says here, the untold lives of the women killed by Jack the Ripper, and that was Polly, Annie, Elizabeth, Catherine, and Mary Jane. And what she does is she looks at each of the 5 women, and she looks at them, at their lives as a whole, and looks at how they grew up, things that happened in their lives, and how they ended up dead at the hands of Jack the Ripper. And what I love about this is it is giving a voice to those victims. She doesn't talk about Jack the Ripper. He's not named at all in this book, and it's kind of a social commentary of what was what life was like at the time for women, and I think it undoes a lot of the kind of misconceptions that people have about these women, and about their lives and all of that kind of stuff. So if you haven't read this, I would recommend it. Obviously it's very dark, because it's dark topics that are being dealt with, so check content warnings. But I think Hallie Rubenhold is a really good start if you're wanting to read non-fiction, because she's just really engaging, and really interesting. So yeah, that'd be my recommendation for that. Thank you for your questions. Okay, Shane had a few questions. The first couple are coming up now. So he asked, how did you get over the shyness of standing up in front of your class and speaking to a group? Really good question. The honest answer is YouTube. So I had my channel for 2 years before I became a teacher, and I genuinely think that having a YouTube channel helped me become a teacher, because there is nothing scarier than being stood in front of a class of 30 teenagers. Let me tell you. Well, that's been my experience anyway. And I think that my teaching self and my YouTube self, there's a lot of overlap. They are very similar people. And it's a similar kind of gear that I switch into. So I think YouTube helped. I think knowing that you're the expert in the room helps. You know, I go into it in that those kids need my help to learn this stuff, this information that I'm going to give them, and I am the expert in the room in that particular moment, in that particular thing. And that knowledge helps as well. And it's also just one of those things, you just have to do it. I remember, like, honestly thinking about it now, it's making me feel a little bit unwell. But I remember the first time I had to stand in front of a class and teach, and it's been 5 years and lots has happened since then, but I can picture it really vividly in my mind. It is scary as hell, but also you just have to do it. And the second time you do it, it gets a bit easier, third time, etc, etc. I mean, I don't think it's something you would ever get over entirely. I've been out of teaching now for 6 weeks because I'm currently signed off work. And I am so excited about going back next year, and I can't wait to see my kids, but I also know full well that the first time I stand up in front of a full class, I will be terrified. Hopefully it will be like riding a bike or falling off a log, and my teaching will, my training will kick in and I'll be fine. But yeah, I think YouTube really helped, knowing that I'm the expert in that particular room, and it's just one of those things, sometimes you just have to take a deep breath and do it. He also asked, do you ever tire of your channel or ever have doubts or questions about continuing? No, is the main answer to that. I have always got ideas. There's always stuff I want to do. Life has got in the way quite a bit this year, as you guys will know. I did consider going on quite a long break when I got my diagnosis, but actually having videos to make as like small projects in my week has been really helpful. Obviously I can take breaks whenever I need to. I will be going on a break when I have my surgery. At the time of filming this, I still don't know when that will be, but there will definitely be a break happening then. But in terms of kind of leaving for good, no. Obviously that could change at any point, but this has always been something I have loved to do, and a space that I feel very comfortable in and very safe in, and so yeah, I can't imagine not continuing. Okay, then Clegg had several questions sort of in one. So they asked, is there one book that you wish you could erase from your memory and read it for the first time? Yes, and this is a book I read last Christmas for the first time, and maybe because it's now Christmas again, maybe it's why I'm thinking of this, but this is the first book that popped into my head, and it's an author we've already spoken about, but it is Letters from Father Christmas by J.R.R. Tolkien. Mary from Mary Among Stories, and I think Milena talked about this book at the end of last year, and so I decided to pick it up and read it, and it was just absolutely glorious. My brother sent me this beautiful hardback copy because he knew how excited I was for it. It's just absolutely stunning, like end pages and stuff. And these are literally the letters that Tolkien wrote to his children as Father Christmas. So when they were kids, they fully believed in Father Christmas, and he wrote to them. And over the years, there were several characters that came in and out. He created these whole storylines, this whole world for his children. And when I read this last year, it made me weep. And actually, I think I read this twice last year. I think I read it on audio and then physically. Because it was just such a beautiful thing for a parent to do for their child. As well as just being like, Tolkien's writing is just an absolute joy to read. So I kind of wish that I could wipe this from my brain and then have that reading experience again this year. As it is, I'm going to try and fit in a reread at the end of this year. If not, I will definitely be rereading it next Christmas. So yeah, I've got hiccups now. I kind of wish I could go back and read this again for the first time. If you've got this on your TBR, pick it up. If you haven't got this on your TBR, put it on your TBR. It's short. I think the audiobook was like 4 or 5 hours. It is just, there's just no way that you could read this and not feel that Christmas joy. Okay, next question from them. If you could visit one place in the world for bookshops, where would it be? That's a really good question. I have been very lucky to go to some really cool bookish places. So Hay-on-Wye is a town in Wales, I think. If it's not in Wales, it's on the Welsh border. That is full of bookshops. I did a couple of vlogs when I was there last year, so I'll link those underneath if you're interested. One of them is Hobbit themed, so I'll put that underneath. I've also been lucky enough to go to Edinburgh. I went up to Edinburgh to see Wyn and Harry. I think it was 4 years ago, which is horrifying to think it was that long ago. I did do a vlog. I think it was a silent vlog, so I just took clips of the whole week and put music underneath, but I will link that underneath in case you're interested. And they were kind enough to take me to the bookshops along with Jean as well. Jean was there, and which was just a fantastic week. And they showed me around the bookshops. I think I would quite like to go to York. York looks like a really beautiful town. Claire Fenby makes beautiful videos in general, but she's done a few, she lives in York, and she's done a few like shop with me videos, which are always beautiful and make me want to go there. So that would probably be top of my list. It is far from where I live. It's a long way. I'm lucky enough to live near Bath, which is also another beautiful bookish town. So yeah, I think in terms of the UK, York is the top of my list. I'm not sure where else in the world is good for bookshops, so please tell me which, where should I put on my kind of travel list for bookish places. That would be a good thing to put in the comments. So yeah, I think York, but let me know if I should be going to other places as well. Next question was, what book have you read where you thought you would almost guarantee you'd love it, you ended up hating it? We've already talked about Catabasis this year. I really thought it was going to be a 5-star read, and I didn't finish it. What is your favourite go-to bookmark or style of bookmark if you have one? I've also had a few questions recently about my Etsy store. That's been closed since the summer. That will be coming back next year, just once I am fully back on my feet and up and running. I will be bringing that back. For any of you that don't know, I have an Etsy store that sells bookmarks, which I think is possibly why I've got this question. I have a ridiculous amount of bookmarks. Like I have, I think 4 or 5 tins of bookmarks, and I am forever buying them. My favourite one is, well, I'm very sentimental, so if something has got sentimental value attached to it, I will keep it forever and ever. So this bookmark that I've chosen, that's my favourite one that I use all the time, is cute. It's not like particularly special to look at, but it's because Steph, who is my best friend, gave it to me, and so I've just used it and used it and used it. I've actually had to tape it back together at the top. I've used it that much. So this is my favourite bookmark. She got it for me years ago, I don't think we even had Black Cats back when she gave it to me. And as you can see here, I have taped it back together. There's just something about this that I love. I love a bookmark, an illustrated bookmark. I do like a bookmark with a tassel. I don't sell bookmarks with tassels just because it was just extra faff. And using tassel bookmarks is a bold move as a cat owner. If you know, you know. But yeah, this is my favourite bookmark. And it's mostly just because I've had it for ages and Steph gave it to me, I think. But yeah, I do have a ridiculous amount of bookmarks. If you want a video where I go through my bookmark collection, let me know, because I can happily do that. Maybe I could like recommend books based on my bookmarks, something like that. I don't know, let me know. Next question from them is, what is your pet hate in bookish accessories? I actually can't think of any. I don't like deckled edges. I mean, technically that's on books, not bookish accessories. I don't really use many bookish accessories. I use bookmarks and book sleeves. I think that's it. And the book like cradle that Charlie got me for my birthday, which I love and use every day. But I don't use Kindles and stuff, so I don't really use any other accessories. But I do hate a deckled edge on a book. I have been known to put a book down in a bookshop because I had a deckled edge. Like the texture is just, it's a no. I can't manage that. Have you decided next year's charities for your channel yet? Great question. So no, at the time of filming. At the time of filming this, I have just put out a call out on my community tab asking you guys to recommend or nominate charities that you want to support next year. In case you're new here, we choose 1 or 2 charities a year, and all of my AdSense and all of my Etsy money goes into a pot. And then at the end of the year, I donate it to those charities that we've decided to support. So no, I haven't chosen my 2026 charities. I do have some thoughts and some ideas, but I want to see what you guys think first. And I will be announcing probably on the 1st of January as the plan which charity or charities will be supporting next year. We're going to do 2 as a maximum because I think otherwise it gets slightly too diluted. And there are going to be some changes to how we support the charities next year, which I might as well talk about. No, I'm not going to talk about it now because we're already like 45 minutes in, and I'm going to do my 2026 intentions video, which will be the next one that you see. So we'll talk about it there. We're still going to be a charity channel. I'm just going to slightly adjust some of the ways that we do it. But no, we haven't decided on it yet. If you have got any charities you'd like to nominate, please don't leave a comment about it on this video. If you can go onto my community tab and find the picture where I asked for charity nominations, if you could put it there. I don't have as much brain space at the moment, and it would just be really helpful for me if it was all in one place. But yeah, that will be coming in January. And then they asked, what is one book you can never get tired of reading? This was hard. Obviously, I've talked about a lot of my favourite books already, and I wanted to choose a different one. And then I've seen M. Donahue, The Pull of the Stars, which is also going to be the answer for another question in a minute. I feel like I could read this book over and over and over. I have read it many times. I feel like it will always make me cry, so I have to be in a certain mood. But this is a book that I feel like I could never get tired of reading. Thank you for your questions. Okay, Helen said, just wanted to say, oh, it's not a question, it's just a, oh no, she does have a question. Sorry, my brain. Just want to say that I love your channel and you actually like similar books to me. Thank you for being here. Do you have a way to pick what to read, or do you just go by mood? Thank you for your videos. And then a smiley face. That was such a nice comment. Sort of. I used to do TBR videos back in the day. I haven't done one. I think I stopped doing them in 2022 or 2023. I definitely didn't do it last year, and I haven't done it this year. Mostly because as soon as I put a formal TBR together and do a video and tell you guys what I want to read, I just literally want to read anything else. And I was finding it too restrictive. So I do put a stack together at the start of each month, and they tend to be my priority reads. In that stack will always be any arcs that are due to be read. If I always read an arc the month before so that I can kind of be part of the advertising and the hyping of that book when it comes out. So arcs always come first. Any buddy reads, I don't tend to do that many buddy reads these days. I don't love doing buddy reads, if I'm totally honest. I find it a bit restrictive, and I'm not always the most coherent person when I'm reading a book. I tend to have all my thoughts once I've finished it, so I'm not that great at buddy reading. But if I am doing buddy reads, they'll be in that stack. I also prioritise the oldest books on my TBR, and that's pretty much it. And I just pick from mood, what mood I'm in to read. I have been using, in the last part of this year, I've been using a spinner wheel quite a lot. Kerry, she's just changed her channel. Kerry Books? I think she's Kerry Books. She's either Kerry Books or Kerry Reads. She's just changed her channel name, but I'll link her underneath. She messaged me on Instagram because she could see that I was flailing around. I was talking about how I was having really bad decision fatigue and I couldn't decide what to read and it was all really stressful. And she was like, you could try putting it into a spinner wheel, because that's what she does when she's feeling stressed or anxious, not just with reading. And actually that's been a really useful tool when I've been struggling. So that's what we did the last couple of months, is just putting all the books that are in my kind of priority stack into the spinner wheel. So for example, the last couple of months have been the books for the Winter Reading Challenge, and I've just put those prompts into the spinner wheel. And when I want a new book, I spin the wheel on my phone. I'll put a link underneath for the website I've been using, and it comes up with a book to read. And I've really enjoyed that process. It's made reading a lot easier, or choosing what to read a lot easier. So yeah, there is some method, mostly just madness when I'm choosing what to read. Makoko said, hi, congratulations, what's your favourite historical fiction as well as historical non-fiction book? So this is also the other reason why I pulled up these books. So I would say my favourite historical fiction, I used to read a lot of historical fiction. It used to take up probably at least half of what I was reading. I've started to read less of it recently, the last 18 months or so, and I'm not sure why. However, there will be a historical fiction. There's at least one historical fiction in my top books of the year, which will be coming in January, as I already said. But in terms of historical fiction book that I've loved for a long time, it is The Pull of Stars by Emma Donoghue. This is set in Dublin in 19-something. It's World War One, 1918, and the flu pandemic. And we follow, is it Julia? Yes. We follow Julia, who is a nurse on the maternity ward, through 24 hours of her shift, basically. And this book is heartbreaking. It's beautiful. It always makes me cry. It's queer. And it just has a really, I think one of the reasons I love it as a historical fiction, it's got a really strong sense of place, which I think is really important in historical fiction. So if you haven't read this, check content warnings, obviously, but I would highly recommend this one. And then for historical non-fiction, which is a brilliant prompt, I have gone for The Roaring Girls by Holly Kite. This is a book that I picked up when I was in Edinburgh, actually, so I've had this a few years now. And this is just looking at 8 women through history who have been trailblazers, basically. I'm going to read you the back because it's really short and it's the best way to summarise it. So Roaring Girls tells the stories of 8 daring trailblazers who redefined what it meant to be a woman in pre-20th century Britain. From a cross-dressing thief to a rebel slave, these formidable women refused to play by the rules, and in doing so helped sow the seeds of modern feminism. And I just think, I remember this being just really fun and interesting and just kind of really engaging non-fiction. Like I was talking about with The Five by Hallie Rubenhold, I feel like Holly Kite's style is very similar. And yeah, I would definitely recommend this one. This doesn't get enough love, I don't think. So yeah, for historical non-fiction, Roaring Girls for sure. Okay, last few questions. We're now like nearly an hour in. Whoops. We all know I can chat though. Right, so Michelle said, is it difficult being a teacher and a YouTuber? I would love my own channel. I came here via Ali, thank you Ali, around my crafting reading journey, but I hesitate about sharing aspects of my life on such a public forum. I appeared on BBC News at 1 PM a couple of years ago, that's so cool, following my work with a charity, wow, that's even cooler, and I was startled when a parent mentioned it. Really silly, I know. So, I don't think it's silly at all. I think as teachers, we have certain responsibilities and we have certain pressures that are put on us. My teaching and YouTube life are very separate from each other. I had a YouTube channel before I was a teacher. I have checked my contract extensively. There's nothing to say that I can't have an internet presence. But I obviously can't do anything that brings school into disrepute. And I wouldn't do that anyway. It's not the kind of content that I make. I don't film at school. And I wouldn't ever say where I teach or talk about any of my kids specifically. So I think that's the line that I draw. And whilst I would prefer it to keep it separate, I feel like if any of my parents or my kids or school staff found my channel, there's nothing here that I would be worried about them seeing. So I think it's about finding that balance of what you are going to share and how you present yourself. But I do think it's fine for teachers to have social media presences. Is that a word? I don't love the TikTok trend of teachers recording whilst they are teaching. I think there are some serious safeguarding issues around that, but I, like I said, would never film at school. And mostly I would want to keep the two things separate, because this is my like creative space away from school, and teaching and working in a school in general, whatever your role is a fantastic job, but it is all consuming. And so having this space just for me away from being Miss is really important. But yeah, if you're thinking about getting into Booktube, do it, or YouTube. I would highly recommend it. If anyone wants a video on my thoughts on starting a channel, let me know. I've got hiccups now. I'm no expert, but I have learned a few things along the way. So if you would be interested in that, let me know and I can do it next year. But yeah, good luck if you do launch your channel. And yeah, like I said, I think it's just being aware of what you're posting and accepting that it might be found and being comfortable with that. And if you're not comfortable with that, then not having a channel. But yeah, good luck if you do go for it. Another question from Shane: how do you differentiate your cats? Have you ever mixed them up? In case you don't know, I have 3 black cats. No, we very rarely mix them up. Jack and Savannah are a similar size, so sometimes when someone's walking past out of the corner of my eye, I might not be able to tell them apart immediately, but they are very different. Jack is our oldest boy. He's our only boy. He's our oldest cat, and he is very much a grumpy old man these days. He has much shorter and coarser fur than the girls. Savannah is very sleek and very loud. She's our chatty cat. She's the one that you can often hear in the background when I'm filming. So we know where she is in the house because she will let us know. And then Molly, who is tiny. So the other 2 cats are about 5 kg, which is kind of average cat size. Jack's quite long, but in terms of like weight and stuff, they're both around about 5 kg, which is sort of average or normal cat size, whatever that means. Molly is 2.4 kg, so she's tiny. She's half the size of the other 2. She is full grown. She's not going to get any bigger. And she's known as our pocket rocket. She is quite fluffy. We talk about her back legs being like her pantaloons because they get very fluffy in the winter. And she is our most cat-like cat. There's about to be a siren go past. She is quite aloof. She is not a lap cat. She will occasionally allow you to stroke her, which I think makes it more worthwhile when she does. She is the one that brings in the mice and the birds and whatever else she can find. So yeah, it's quite easy to tell them apart for us, and obviously we live with them every day. And they very rarely get mixed up. I will sometimes say the wrong name, but I know which name I mean. But yeah, they're quite difficult to kind of mix up when you're in person. He also asked, would you ever get another colour or breed of cat, or is black a must? So we never intended to have 3 black cats. That happened completely by accident. We adopted Jack in August of 2018. We had a cat before. I had a cat to start with, and then she became the family cat called Cassidy, who was a beautiful tortoiseshell cat. And she passed away in May of 2018. We then got married in the June, and kind of over the summer, I didn't really feel ready to have a cat yet, but it felt weird to not have a cat in the house, and Charlie was asking, and so we decided to just go ahead and get another cat. My only stipulation was that we get a boy cat rather than a girl cat. Cass had been a girl cat, and I felt like I needed a boy cat so that I could have that kind of separation in my head. So that was the only criteria that we went to the cat home with. We initially went to have a look at a pair of ginger boys, brothers, who we thought we were going to bring home with us, but actually when we got there, they were clearly feral, so they weren't suitable for us, particularly with Charlie around. They ended up living in the cat colony that Bath Cats Dogs Home have, which is fantastic. And yeah, we ended up coming home with Jack. He was very friendly. He let Charlie cuddle him. Charlie was only 8 at the time, so obviously we needed a cat that was going to be child friendly. So he came home with us in August of 2018 and settled in really quickly. And we'd never really thought about getting a second cat. I'd kind of had solo cats as a grown up living by myself. And And my previous cat, Cassidy, was definitely an only cat. She did not tolerate other cats being around. But Jack very quickly made friends with one of the neighbourhood cats. And they would play, and she'd come into our house and they would curl up together. It was really cute. But unfortunately, her owners bred her a number of times, which is not something I'd recommend. And she, as a result, became very kind of scratchy and hissy and all of that sort of stuff. So we had to stop her coming in, mostly because we were worried about her biting Charlie or Jack. But he was kind of lonely on his own. So we were like, okay, let's get a second cat. And this was during the pandemic. And so in 2020, end of 2020, I contacted the Cats Home and said, hey, we want to get a second cat. We've already got one, gave them the parameters. And obviously once you've already got a cat, it's harder to adopt a second because not many cats will happily socialise with cats that they're not already bonded with. But in December of 2020, I got a call to say, we've got this little girl cat who we've nicknamed Tinsel, who has been found straying. We think she was born outside, but she seems friendly, she's happy around other cats, she could be a good fit for you. So in January of 2021, we went up to the Cats Home and saw Molly, as she became, brought her home that day, introduced her to Jack. They tolerate each other. None of our three are bonded, but they do tolerate each other. They get on, they live together fine, and they like eat next to each other, all that sort of stuff. So we had Jack and Molly, and then I can't remember why, but I decided that we wanted a third cat. And so I contacted Bath Cats and Home again, and this was in like March or April of 2021, and said, we think we want one more. But obviously when you have two cats, it's even harder to find a third. So it took months. And then finally in August of 2021, I got a call whilst I was at my mum's house to say, we've found this cat, we've got this cat, we think we could be a good fit. She was found in a shipping container in Bristol with her kittens, and her kittens have now gone to their new homes and we're ready to rehome mum. And I was like, yep, great, sounds good. We'll take her, we'll come pick her up next week. I remember the woman saying, oh, there is one thing. And I was like, okay, because we'd said we'll take any colour, we'll take the one with 3 legs or no tail or 1 eye or whatever. We're happy to take any cats as long as they would fit in with our other 2. She said, oh, she's another black cat. And I was like, okay, that's fine, we'll take her. Black cats, statistically, at least in the UK, are likely to stay in catteries longer, partly because, possibly because they're considered to be more boring to look at, which I highly disagree with. I think my babies are beautiful. And also because there's still some lingering superstitions around black cats, which to me seems ridiculous, but obviously people have their beliefs. So yeah, we ended up with 3 black cats completely by accident. It was never our design or our aim. Obviously we are happy with our 3 at the moment. We are definitely done with 3. I think 3 is enough. Part of me sometimes is like, it'd be nice to have a new cat, another cat, but we're good with 3 because also they all need injections and flea treatment and feeding and insurance and all that sort of stuff. It has to be factored in. So we're done with 3. Obviously, as and when things happen, there might be cats in the future, and we would never aim for a particular type of cat. Personally, I would never buy a cat. I would only rescue a cat, and I would also go for older cats rather than kittens. Kittens find homes really easily, which is great, but I like rehoming the cats that might be a little bit more difficult to place. So yes, that was a long way of saying we would get a different colour and breed, and a black cat is not a must. It's just how it's worked out. Shane also asked, who's your oldest friend? I've already mentioned her. Steph and I met at uni. Also, like I said already, I have never had many friends, and I think being on Booktube has actually brought me the most friends I've ever had, and I've been so lucky to make some really close friends like Charlotte, I've already mentioned, and Chloe. But Steph is my longest serving friend. We met at uni. I'm not getting into those stories right now, but yeah, she is my ride or die best friend, oldest friend, and yeah, I don't think you'll ever see her on the channel. She is not keen on being online or on the internet, which is absolutely fine, but yeah, she's my oldest friend. Okay, we have got 3 questions left. We're almost there. We're just over an hour, the hour mark, so well done if you're still here. So another question from Shane, last question from Shane. What does being a stepmother to Charlie mean to you? Great question. It means everything to me. I think it's difficult because if you look at my channel and you look at my social media, there's no real evidence of Charlie, and that is very deliberate. His privacy is so important to me. He is so important to me, and his privacy and his safety are like absolutely number one in my head. He was my first ever subscriber, which is just such a lovely thing. I don't know if he's still subscribed. He doesn't watch, which is totally fine. This would not interest him in the slightest, which is fine. He's 16. This is not his thing. So there's no real evidence of him, but he is a huge part of my life. He's one of the biggest parts of my life. Step parenting is a tricky gig. It's a complicated gig. It's not something I've talked very much about, mostly because it's not just my story to tell. It's his story to tell. It's his dad's story to tell. It's his mum's story to tell. I think for me, the way that I look at it is that I am not his mum, but I am his parent. And that's quite an important distinction, I think. And yeah, he's everything. Being a step parent is everything, I think. It is hard. There's not a natural space for a step parent. There is no step parents day, and the boys are lovely and have celebrated me on Mother's Day for a few years now, which is nice. It's also a little bit uncomfortable because I'm not a mother. But it's nice to be acknowledged by him and the role that I play in his life. And yeah, I don't want to get like super emotional about it and mushy, but he's really cool. I wish I could show you him because he is such a cool person. I can't and I won't, but just trust me, he's really cool and he's kind and he's funny. And I'm so excited to see what he does with his life because I just know it's going to be great. So yeah, that's my little, waffle about Charlie. Michelle asked, hey Victoria, hope you're doing well. Do you think you'll have a little one day, and have you read any John Grisham? The answer to both of those questions is no. Actually, no, I have read some John Grisham. No, we're not going to have any more kids. We are one and done with Charlie. And I have read John Grisham, but not for like maybe 20 years. If there's any particular John Grisham that you want to recommend, I'm happy to look at it. I don't tend to read that many male authors, apart from like Travis Baldry, clearly. That's not deliberate, it's just the way my writing works out. My reading has worked out. But yeah, if there's any John Grisham that you think I would like, give me some specific recommendations, that'd be lovely. He's kind of one of those authors that, I've got hiccups now, and my tea's gone a bit too cold to drink. I drank about half, which is not bad. He's kind of one of those authors that's got such a huge backlist, it's kind of intimidating to go into. So yeah, let me know if there's any specific John Grisham that you think I would like. And then the last question, and I'm sorry if I get your username incorrect, but FM Yuskina? Sorry. Do you ever feel pressure to do or not do certain things because you're a charity channel? No. Not because I'm a charity channel. I don't swear online. And I think that's one of the things that surprises people when they meet me in real life, is that I'm quite sweary. Obviously, I try to be respectful around other people, but like when we were on the Booktube meetup, people were swearing, which is fine. And I think that some people were surprised when I was also swearing, like joining in with that. Because when I'm not teaching, and when I'm not around kids, and when I'm not at work, I've just said that, and when I'm not on YouTube or Booktube stuff, I am quite sweary. I enjoy an Anglo-Saxon swear word. But that's probably the biggest change between me online and me offline. And no, I don't feel pressure to do or not do certain things because I'm a charity channel. I read what I'm interested in reading. I make the videos that I want to make, and I am very grateful for those of you that are here along for the ride. I can't really think of anything that I wouldn't do apart from the swearing thing. Because I'm a charity channel. No, I don't think there is. Those are all the questions, and I've been here for like an hour and 10 minutes chatting to you. Like I said, my tea has now gone cold, so I'm going to go and refresh that before I start editing. What a joy. I hope you enjoyed this. Thank you to everybody who left me questions. They were really, really good questions, really good mix of stuff, and really interesting, so thank you for that. Thank you if you are still here watching. If you watch me in general, I appreciate it. Yeah, I think that's probably enough waffle for one day. If you got to this point in the video, is there a gingerbread? I don't think there is a gingerbread emoji. Leave me the sweets. Some sort of like sweet emoji. Or like cake, these are macaroons down here, but something like that, something sweet or cakey. If there is a gingerbread emoji, which I don't think there is, and there should be, you can leave me that. Just let me know you got to the end of the video. Please subscribe if you would like more of this chaos, and I will see you in the next one. Thanks everyone. Bye.